Hello, my name is Katie and welcome to my shed. It's been a while. Well, it's been 2 weeks. I've been on leave and we went away, which was lovely. And I've just come back and realised that I left the shed in an absolute state, which is quite upsetting because I was hoping to come in this morning and just get on and play, but actually I need to tidy up before I can start playing, which is a real shame. But, you know, it's of my own doing. I am also testing a microphone because it's quite cold and I want to be able to have the heater on. So I'm recording this and I'm hoping you won't be able to hear the heater, and therefore I will be able to talk to you and have the heater on, which will be very exciting for when it gets really cold. I mean, it's actually still really mild, isn't it, out at the moment? So I don't need it on for long. I just want to warm the bones of the shed up because it's been a while since I've been in here. So once I've done my tidying up, I'm going to make a start on Christmas cards, and I know it feels quite early, but it doesn't actually. Stuff's been in the shops for a few weeks, hasn't it? And we're now in November, so I don't feel too bad making a start on them. And I've decided I'm going to do some big fat robins because I did the little watercolour, which I think I've put it up as a short, so you might have seen that. I'm going to do it in the style of this one here. This one I did is in gouache, and I'm going to do some silk screen, which, to be fair, I'm only making sort of 10-15 cards, so I could paint them. It'd probably take about the same amount of time to paint, but I want to try out my new screen because I feel like I shortchanged you all last week by only doing an unboxing and setting up the screen. So that's why I'm going to do it today. I might regret it because it needs space and I haven't got space in here because it's such a mess, but it gives me incentive to tidy up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a tidy and then I'll come back to you and we'll do some screen printing. Okay, so I've drawn this out on a bit of scrap newsprint. I've deliberately used newsprint because I'm going to want to use this as my template, so I'm going to be using it on the light box or a window to create my image. And I'm going to use, I mean, very similar design to what I was doing before. So this, I forgot to say, is 10 by 10 centimeters, and that's because I like to use this size, which is sort of 15 by 15, and that gives me a bit of a border. So I'll print it onto sort of white paper and then mount it onto some black paper and then stick it onto the blanks. All right, what are we doing? I'm sort of looking over my shoulder to, no, I'm going to do both birds. I was thinking I might just do one bird, but I think I'm going to do both. But I am going to have them looking at each other, so it'll be slightly different to last time. I just went and got this one. I don't know that I've shown this one, but just to try it and get my shapes in the right place. Some coloured pencil. Okay, that is it in very rough. Okay, well, here is my light box. I have cut out a piece of newsprint, which is about the same size as the screen, maybe a little bit smaller. And I'm going to use this for my first colour. So I think what I'll do for my first colour is the brown. I'm going to do all of it in a light brown, and then I'll do the darker over the top. I'm going to use this as my registration. The way I do it isn't particularly precise, and because of that I do end up with some like white showing of the paper underneath, but that's what I like, so I don't worry about that. But if you want to be more precise, I would say use a light box and don't rush the drawings, whereas I always rush the drawings. I just want a little bit of wing. Might do the beaks as well. I'm going to leave the beak. So I'm just doing the whole of that shape. So that's the first colour. So the next thing I need to do is cut it out, and I've got to get my little cutting mat, and I will get my blades. Okay, so I've just got a cutting mat. I like these blades. There's loads of different blades you can get, but these ones are so small, I find them much easier to work with. And what I'm going to do now is cut out the area that I want to print in the light brown. And again, I am not very precise. That is just not how I work. I think I just enjoy the fact that sometimes that it makes it a little bit looser, a little bit more experimental, and I like having the whites of the paper showing. Cut through very well there. To make sure that all the edges are crisp. I don't want any torn edges, not in this image anyway. Sometimes I will use torn edges, not today. So this newsprint I just buy from our local art shop called Stencils, which is where I bought the screen from. It's just flip chart paper actually. You can pick it up pretty cheap anywhere. So it's great for drafting, but it's also perfect for screen printing. Okay, it's nearly done. I'll just get this little bit of wing and then little legs. So I'll do this all in the lighter brown, and then I can go over. If I can ever get this leg off, there we go. For the wing area in the darker. There we go. So that is my first layer of screen print. Now I will set up the screen, I'll show you what I'm doing, and we'll do some printing. Okay, so the paper I'm going to print on is just, it's from the works. It's a watercolour paper, but I wouldn't want to do watercolour on it, if that makes sense. It's not a very good quality, but it is quite thick. I don't know, it didn't say what the GSM was on it, but it feels like about 300. Because you don't need, it doesn't need to be great quality, because I don't need it to work well with the paint, because the ink lays on top of it rather than moving around like watercolour would. But you do need something quite heavy, like a card, because otherwise it will just cockle and stick to the screen. So you need something with a bit of weight to it. So I'm going to use this, and I'll print from the bottom, and then this will all get cut off at the end. Please excuse the table because I haven't tidied it up. I said I was going to, and I haven't. If you'd like to see how I set this screen up, then check out last week's video. But this is the Speedball Intermediate kit, but with a basic kit base, because it didn't come with it. There's a spoiler for the video. So yeah, watch last week's video if you want to see me setting it up. What I need to do is work out my registration. So I need to move you to get this screen out of the way. Hang on. There we go. So I talk about these. These are to lift the screen off in the last video. And now I'm going to just mark out my registration. So the registration is basically to make sure that I put the piece of paper in the same place for every print. Otherwise, bits will be in all all over the show in the wrong places. So I'm just going to put one down, and I want it to be kind of in the middle of the screen, just so that I can get an even print and even print pressure. And then I'm going to use some masking tape just to show where it's going to go. But I need a slightly bigger piece than that. And this just means that each time I put down a piece of paper, need to make sure it's square, it goes down in the same place. There you go. So then once I've printed that, lift that out, put the next bit of paper down. It's going to be in the same place each time. I think I might just layer that so there's a little bit of a lip, just to stop it moving around. There we go, 3 bits should be enough. It just gives it, there you go, a little bit of something to catch on so it doesn't move around too much. Okay, next thing we need to do is prepare the screen. I'm going to pop this down just so I can get a rough idea of where I need to put them. Stencil on the paper, and then I've got to move you again. Lay this down for a second, and I can see that all of this area here needs to be covered, all this side here, because my stencil doesn't fill the screen. And I also need to use masking tape just to stop the ink going between the wood and the screen, otherwise it's impossible to clean. So I'm going to do that now. I will pop you on time. That was painful. This masking tape's terrible, so it was just sticking to itself and not tearing very well, so it looks a bit of a mess. But the important thing is there is no places where there isn't any newsprint or masking tape, because that's what we need to prevent the ink going through. When I'm layering the masking tape here at the top, I always layer the lowest bit first and then the other bit on top of it. That way when I'm pulling the ink, it doesn't go under the masking tape. If you did it the other way, so if I did it that way, when I'm pulling the ink, it could go under the tape and then bleed onto the image. And likewise at the bottom, I make sure that I layer the bottom bit first and then the top bit over the top. No, that's the higher piece over the top, so that I'm not pulling ink under the masking tape. And I'm just making sure the edges are all tight. I mean, it's not that important on this image because this isn't a fine art print, but if that's what I was doing, you want to make sure. It's always good to have good techniques, even if my masking tape doesn't want to play. So there we go, there's my screen prepped, and I probably won't fidget with that too much now. I'll just leave that be. Let's make up some ink. So this set did come with some ink, but I haven't got the right colours. This one is also a fabric ink, so I don't really want to use it on paper. I don't suppose it makes too much difference, but I'd rather not. So I'm going to make up my own. So what I use is the System 3 Acrylic Printing Medium by Dale Rowney. This is quite expensive, but it goes a long way. So I've had this for a while, and there's still plenty left. And I'm just going to mix it up in a ramekin. And I'm doing the light brown first, sort of the yellowy brown. So I've got some buff titanium and some bronze yellow, which I'm going to use to make a mix with that to pull this first colour. So it does tell you on here the ratios, but I tend to just do my own thing. So it says for best results, use 0.5 to 1 part of medium to 1 part colour. I tend to use it much looser than that, but I'm sure for best results you should follow what they've said. I don't need to make a whole lot because I'm only doing 15 prints, so I'm just going to use that much and then mix it up with some colour. I will probably add a little bit of white in, mixing white, not to change the colour, but just to thicken up the mix a little bit, otherwise it might come out a little bit thin. So the more medium you add, oh, that looks like a little poo in there, doesn't it? The more medium you add, the more transparent the image will be. So mixing white is good because it doesn't change the colour too much. I would say that's probably about the right amount of paint. Let's mix it up and see. So I quite like the colour, I think that's about right. It looks quite yellow on there, but it isn't as yellow. I think it's just the lighting in here, but it's kind of a like Dijon mustard, I would say, that kind of colour. Okay, so when I pull the first colour through with this squeegee, so this came with the kit, it has a side for fabric and a side for graphic. I will use the graphic side. It just doesn't pull through quite as much ink as it does with the fabric. In theory, when I pull the first colour through and lift it, this newsprint stencil will stick to the screen, but I always reinforce it with just a little bit of masking tape on the back, just so it doesn't move, or if it doesn't stick completely, I just like to do that. So yeah, let's do the first one. So I'm going to put the colour at the top. Just checking it's mixed through well. Last time I did screen printing with you guys, it was a while back, but I hadn't mixed it very well. And the prints looked rough. Okay, make sure I've got my paper to hand. Once I start, I work quite quickly because the paints do dry on this screen and then you get blotchy images, but also it makes it harder to clean the screen. So I'll do one print with you, then I'll go on to time lapse, and then I'll probably rush off and clean the screen and then come back and talk to you. Okay, so I've got that on, just drying. I watched words, Katie. I washed it out with just washing up liquid, and it's come really clean. It's nice to have a clean screen actually, because it won't take long before it's disgusting again. And I've just put the leftover of my ink, left it in the ramekin with the lid on, and that should keep for the next colour because I'll just use that as the base layer for the darker brown for the wings. The prints have come out okay. It looks a bit bobbly. It always looks a bit bobbly while it's wet. I think my printing medium might be going a bit gummy because I remember last time having. Oh, sorry, I've got out of screen. I'll just sit down and talk to you. I remember last time having problems with the quality of the print, and it's doing it again now. It's going a little bit eggshelly. So I just wonder. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, just wonder if that is what's gone on. Probably just because I've had it probably for about 4 or 5 years now, and it does live in this shed. So maybe it's just messed with the integrity of the medium a little bit. I mean, it'll be perfectly fine for the purpose that I am using it for, but I wouldn't want to use it if I was doing any art prints or anything that I was going to sell. So I will probably invest in some new stuff if I decide to start doing more prints to sell. So, right, the problem with silk screen is I can only do one colour a day because I have to wait for the screen to dry completely. This bit dries quite quickly, but the wood takes a little while to dry. So I won't be able to do any more colours today. And my next day off is Thursday. So, yeah. Hopefully, if I start early on Thursday, I might be able to get 2 colours done with the help of a hairdryer and the heater. Okay, have a lovely week. See you soon. Hello, how are you doing? We've made it all the way to Thursday, which means I've only got one more work day. I'm actually working on Saturday anyway, but because we've got a workshop, we are running our lino printing Christmas cards workshop, so that'll be fun. But only one more proper work. That makes it sound like the other one's not, you know what I mean. So over the weekend on Sunday printed the first colour of these cards, and today we're going to do the darker brown, and then I think that will be all we get done today on the printing. We might do something else afterwards and see how it goes. I'm still hoping to get this video out by the weekend, but it will depend how much I can get printed. So we'll give it a go. Right, what I'm going to do is use my template to get my dark browns in the right place, and then I'll cross-reference it with the last print with this one, because it's likely that I've got my registration wrong because of the way I do it. So let's turn you around and go onto my window, aka my light box. I don't know if you could see, but from that last time lapse, my registration on my window one is completely wrong. So I've just drawn it with this, and then I'll mark out where I'm going to put the dark colours. So it's basically going to be the body. So I just want to sort of cut it out from here down to the wing. And then the same here. So it's this section I'm going to cut out. I'm just debating whether I want to do any of the top of the head, like this part. I think I might, because yeah, right, let me cut that out. Okay, I'm going to put the heater on, and I'm hoping you'll still be able to hear me. Okay, so that's that done. It got really mucky. It was very annoying. I got a bit of ink on the squeegee, and then every time I went to use it, I got paint on me, even when I tried to wipe it. So it was a little bit mucky. Let's have a little look. I'm sorry, I put the heater on to try and dry the screen off a bit, because otherwise it takes ages. I'm going to pop that out of the way for a moment, and we'll have a little look. Some of them are printed better than others, which is standard for me, but I think at the moment you can tell what it's going to be. So we'll pop in the red as soon as I can. I'll probably do the eyes and the beak by hand, just with some pen, because it'll be quicker. Let's be honest, it'll be quicker, and I can probably be a bit neater with it. Good morning, how are you all keeping? We're at, where are we? Sunday now. See, I've started editing this video and realised that the first colour that I was doing, where I was talking through how I do the actual print, didn't record. So it just goes straight onto a time lapse. So I need to talk to you today about doing the actual print. So we'll do that. I'll set up. We'll do the third colour. So this is what we've got so far. Hang on, here we go. And we'll get the chest in. Right, let's get this red done, and then we can work out what we're going to do with the last colour. Okay, apologies that I didn't do this on the first colour. So I have remasked it out as we discussed before, so I'm not going to go through all of that. The next thing you want to do before you start is just to double check that the stencil is actually where you want it, because I've done this so many times where it moves whilst you're putting the tape on or something like that. So just check it's in the right place, because that'd be really annoying. And make sure the piece of paper is in the right place. It's not. See, that would have been really annoying, because then I'm lining up my stencil with, this is still tacky. I'm going to start with a different one, because if it's still tacky, the stencil will stick to it and not the screen, and then we'll be in a whole load of pain. So make sure that's in the right place, and then put this in the right place. And again, it's up to you. I don't know if you can see on there, but I can see underneath. I can see through this, and that's another reason why this paper is so good. So they're all in the right place. Lower this down gently so it doesn't move. With a big piece of paper like this, it's fine because it won't move so much. But when you've got one with lots of cuts or smaller pieces of paper, sometimes I'm just doing little areas of it, it can move, and then you end up not printing it properly. Can't get the words out, but you know what I mean. So make sure the tape is down, and then lay an edge of the ink down. So I have used the ink that we'd already used, and I've added some red to that and a little bit more of extender. I always like to do that because I feel like it brings the colours together, because I'm using the colours that I've already used and adding to it. And then you want to make sure you've got the right side of your squeegee if it's got two sides. So I'm going to use the graphic side, and you hold it at about 45 degrees. Now really I should flood the screen first. That means I'm going to pull the ink through and then lower it down. I always find whenever I do that, my stencil moves, so I'm not going to do that. But for the purists out there, I know you all know that I'm doing it wrong. If I had a proper bed, so one with suction, I wouldn't be worried about doing that, because I'd lift it and things would stay where they are. So I'm going to pull that through, then I'm going to gently lift it up and use some masking tape to make sure that my stencil stays where I need it to, or if there's any loose bits of stencil, just that they're secure. So 45 degrees, and pull it through, even pressure, and then release. And I'm going to do the little bit of taping. Keep the stencil in the right place, and then I will reflood the screen. So when we say flooding, what we mean is we're just dragging the ink back over, and the reason we're doing that is to stop little bits of ink drying in there. Ooh. There we go. And there's the first one. So we'll crack on. I'll put you onto fast mode again for these ones. Okie dokie, they are all up and hanging. They actually look quite cute. I always find it amazing that one colour just brings things together so well. So I think it's not looking that dissimilar to my original idea. What I'm not sure is what I'm going to do. I want the foreground to be white, to be representing snow, because you know we have so many white Christmases, and so I think I'm going to have to do blue or grey, either blue or grey, or like a, I don't know, that kind of colour, light. I've got the Wedgwood blue, so like the Wedgwood blue might go quite nicely with it. Let's grab that. And I've got one print which is really terrible. Where is it? It's over here. Let me grab that one. This one's not going to be making it to Christmas card season. Let's get a little brush and just see what this colour would look like with it. It won't be quite as dark, so I'll have mixed it, but this one's a System 3 Wedgwood blue, which I really like. It's really muted, and the brush has got hair on it. Wait, I should do it where you can see, shouldn't I? If we do something along those lines, what do we think? That colour work? I feel like that would. I feel like that colour would work. Just using the terrible brushwork. So yeah, I might do that kind of colour with it. There we go. Something like that. That'll be alright, won't it? So we're going to let these dry. I don't know when I'm going to get back in here. So this video is taking over. It's going to be over 2 weeks, really. Okay, so these are all cut up now, pretty much all the same size. So you would have seen I like to make things easy for myself, so that's why I've marked out this so that it was just easier for cutting it. Otherwise you have to remeasure it each time, and I am a bit lazy. Now what I'm not sure is whether I'm going to mount these or if I'm going to put them straight onto the card. I feel like I quite like it like that. Let me grab a piece of black card. Where's your card? So I do, let's see what we think. I think I prefer it without the mount, actually. Normally I mount it. Let's just try it with white. I haven't got any. A bit of white paper, that'll do. Just see whether that would look. No, I think straight on is what we're going to do this time. So I just use PVA glue with an old school spreader, and I'll glue it on, and then I've got a book and a weight. Here's my weight, which I will pop on top of them as I am gluing them, just so that it glues nicely. And some of them they're not brilliant, some are alright, some are a bit wonky, so I'm going to pick the best ones out first, do the best ones, and then decide what to do with the ones that aren't quite as good. Okay, so that was long and painful, and I got 15 cards out of it. So I hate to think, if I was charging an hourly rate, how much that would cost per card. However, it doesn't matter, does it? It's all about the fact that I've made cards with love that I can send to my friends and family. So this is the final card. It's quite sweet. I don't think anybody that I give it to will understand how long and painful it was to do, and nor should they. So yeah, 15 cards. Some of them are a bit squiffy. It doesn't really matter. One of them's glued itself to its friend. I might have to fill that in. I have got a little bit of ink left, so I'll do that. I feel like it's really drained me. So let's wind this video up at last. So I hope it showed you a little bit about how to use the screen, and I don't think anyone should really use it as an instructional. I think I probably demonstrated some really dodgy techniques, but there you go. It is what it is. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing me make these cards. I am off to do something very non-thinky, because I feel like when I print I always have to really think about what I'm doing, and sometimes you don't want to do that. So I'm probably going to do some painting this afternoon just so that I can turn my brain off a little bit. So have a lovely week and I will see you soon. Bye.